We do have the Obama soundbite here. Well, it's former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson talking about Obama approving that statement that Russia was behind the DNC hack, even though he knew that there was at best a low confidence assessment to that effect. Correct. Here it is in SOT 55 when he...
The story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump.
Imagine Barack Obama strolling in like he still owns the spotlight, only to be met by Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance, armed with verbal sledgehammers. The clash? Brutal. When slick speeches collide with a tag team of ruthless takedowns, the result isn't politics, it's pure demolition. Grab your popcorn, because this roast is served in 4K. By the end, Obama might just wish he never left his vacation.
Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency. Donald J. Trump, I'm telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide, and that's why he's been an advocate for full transparency in this.
The intelligence that had been given to Obama was low confidence, and then somehow Obama interferes, and we wind up with a high confidence assessment that they did this, and it does not appear any additional information was received to change it from low to high.
And that latter point about no additional information being received, that's now documented in the House Intelligence Committee report that's just been released by Tulsi Gabbard, where they say,
if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon for updates. Barack Obama still struts around like the prom king who refused to leave the dance floor. But here's the catch, it's 2025. The music stopped a long time ago, the disco balls packed away, and yet he's still spinning in slow motion like the spotlight owes him rent. The truth? People are finally waking up to the fact that the tux doesn't fit anymore.
You see the post he put out to celebrate her birthday?
Yeah.
Was it her birthday or their anniversary? Shows the least attractive photo of her that's ever been released. I mean, this is just wrong. Michelle Obama can look very nice in a photograph. This ain't it. She's got the kerchief on her head. They're about 20 feet apart in this intimate dinner. And he looks great. This is classic, right? Like, he's like, this is a great picture. He's got the 1,000-watt smile. And she looks terrible. Why would he do this?
Megyn.
And no two people have shredded that illusion more ruthlessly than Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance. They didn't just question Obama's golden halo, they tossed it in a blender and hit puree. Remember, Obama was packaged as this larger-than-life icon, the polished poster boy of hope and change. The guy could market optimism the way Apple sells iPhones, sleek, shiny, maybe unnecessary, but somehow impossible to resist.
Senator Vance, in Pittsburgh on Thursday, former President Barack Obama admonished black men for being hesitant about voting for Kamala Harris. I was wondering if you could contrast your approach to hesitant voters and how you tried to earn them over.
You know, first of all, I don't believe, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you agree with Donald Trump or disagree with him, I don't believe in hectoring voters. I believe in persuading voters.
He promised unity but delivered division. Promised prosperity, yet left behind crumbling Rust Belt towns. Promised transparency, but gave us more smoke and mirrors than a Vegas magician on a Red Bull rush. For years, the media crowned him the flawless golden boy, the chosen one who could do no wrong. But Megyn Kelly wasn't buying the act. She didn't just call out the cracks in the facade, she turned the whole thing into a demo.
Obama's still at it. And in this particular soundbite, she's got thoughts on relationships.
Relationships are long, and there are also ebbs and flows, right? So I think sometimes people who date don't realize that, you know, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips, and you're gonna have
a bad year.
You're gonna have I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh. It's like, you're going to have a bad decade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years.
Kelly's opening strike is always aimed at the media, the way they acted less like reporters and more like Obama's personal PR squad. Think about it, if he sneezed, they'd call it a deep meditation on healthcare reform. If he stumbled, they spun it as a display of humility. If he tripped on the stairs, suddenly gravity was paying its respects. Kelly rips that fairy tale to shreds, exposing how the press wasn't covering Obama, they were canonizing him. To them, he wasn't just a leader, he was a brand. The speeches? Beautiful. The delivery? Flawless. The results? Let's just say, if promises were legal tender, we'd all be trillionaires. But Kelly doesn't stop there, she heads straight for the hypocrisy buffet. Take Obama's endless sermons on race and unity. He cast himself as the nation's healer, the political equivalent of a licensed therapist. But by the time he walked out of the Oval Office, America didn't look united, it looked like a middle school cafeteria food fight.
Support is not something I'm given or something I'm owed. It's something you got to go out there and work for. So one, I just don't like the tone of going in. I mean, look, the better question for Barack Obama or anybody to ask is not why black men, it's not how dare you not vote for Kamala Harris. It's maybe they're thinking about voting for Donald Trump because they're sick of being censored, they're sick of being told what to do, and they're sick of not being able to afford the American dream. Maybe that's why we're getting a lot more black voters than Republicans in the past.
Kelly makes it clear Obama's lofty speeches were never leadership, just lectures. He wagged the finger, set the mood, and then vanished while the country tore itself apart. The Unity Act? Nothing more than an 8-year campaign ad with $1 trillion price tag. And then comes the foreign policy resume, which Kelly dissects like a failed group project. Libya? Disaster. Syria? Chaos. The infamous red line? It faded into a pink smudge before disappearing completely. Obama strutted around like diplomacy was his masterpiece, but by the end, the Middle East looked less like an art gallery and more like a demolition zone. And let's not forget his encore. Need a Democratic kingmaker? Obama's still on speed dial, wondering why the party keeps recycling his talking points. Just don't check the White House, check the vineyard. Kelly's whole point is simple, Obama never really left the stage. He just swapped roles, lead actor turned director, making sure every scene in American politics still carries his fingerprints.
Speaking of Barack Obama, he decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
Curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days. And to your point, Smug, I'm starting to warm up to Michelle Obama's POV. I mean, what does he do?
That's where J.D. Vance grabs the baton and runs a completely different lap around Obama's carefully polished image. If Kelly roasts him for media illusions, Vance zeroes in on the working class betrayal. In his telling, Obama isn't just the man with shiny speeches, he's the elitist who turned his back on the very people he claimed to champion. Vance argues Obama never saw blue-collar Americans as citizens to uplift, he saw them as punchlines. The truth? Obama looked more at home in Silicon Valley boardrooms or D.C. cocktail parties than in Ohio factories or Pennsylvania coal mines. His hope and change wasn't a revolution, it was a slick Ponzi scheme. Hope was sold, change was pocketed, and middle America was left holding the receipt. Vance paints him as the smooth-talking salesman who rolls into town with a dazzling smile, sells you a miracle cure, and vanishes with your money right before the bottle blows up in your face.
The last point I want to make is, I got to say, and shocker, newsflash here, I've defended Kamala Harris once, I'm about to defend Barack Obama once. So set to the side the hectoring and the tone of Obama when he went in and talking about black voters, like whatever. Obviously, I just criticized that. You know what I was watching him talk? You know what I thought to myself is, agree or disagree, and obviously I disagreed with about 99% of what he did when he was in office, he had substance and Kamala Harris does not.
Sure, the branding was flawless, hope and change, unity, the audacity of whatever. But the reality? Boarded up storefronts and working families left wondering how they got conned so badly. And Vance doesn't stop with the economy. He goes straight after Obama's favorite weapon, identity politics. In Vance's telling, Obama didn't unite America, he splintered it into carefully curated voting blocks. He became the political scientist of division, slicing up the electorate like a pie chart and making sure no slice dared overlap. Vance argues Obama perfected the art of divide and rule, turning elections into contests of grievances instead of solutions. And the kicker? Obama didn't even need to stick around to keep the chaos alive, it metastasized on its own. Vance ties it to today, pointing out how Obama's ghost still hovers over the Democratic Party like a professor who refuses to retire. Even Biden's decisions trace back to Obama's shadow. That's the beauty of this tag team. Kelly strips away the media's sainthood, exposing the hollow branding underneath. Then Vance swoops in to show the wreckage that branding left behind in real communities. Together, they don't just criticize Obama, they dismantle the myth. The polished icon becomes nothing more than the slick salesman who sold you a car with no engine, and told you to be inspired by the shine on the hood ornament.
More fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle.
If there's one thing Megyn Kelly has mastered, it's pulling back the velvet curtain to reveal that the wizard isn't a genius at all, just an aging politician hiding behind a fog machine. Obama strutted across stages like a rock star, dazzling crowds with speeches that sounded as if angels with typewriters had penned them in the clouds. But Kelly's point is simple. Strip away the teleprompter, kill the dramatic lighting, and you're left with a man whose greatest talent wasn't leadership, it was marketing. She compares the Obama years to a Netflix limited series, beautifully shot, critically acclaimed, but ultimately hollow once you looked at the substance. Because when the credits rolled, Americans weren't living in an inspirational documentary, they were stuck in a blooper reel of rising premiums and broken promises. And that's where Kelly drops the hammer. For 8 years, the media pretended that blooper reel didn't even exist.
He actually had thoughts in his head, and what a contrast that is to Kamala Harris, who just repeats slogan after slogan after slogan. I got to be honest with you, I am offended. Not as a person running to be your vice president, but as a fellow citizen. I am offended that a person who is so substanceless as Kamala Harris dares to think that she could be the president of the United States. It is a disgrace.
Kelly's sarcasm here cuts like a blade. Obama could have torched the Oval Office curtains and half the press corps would have called it a bold new green energy initiative. But her sharpest shots aren't just at the media's worship, they're at the absurd contradictions in Obama's own record. This is the same man who lectured the nation on humility and restraint, then threw White House parties so star-studded they look like auditions for Keeping Up with the Obamas. He preached equality while sipping champagne with celebrities in multi-million-dollar estates, and talked about shared sacrifice while building a post-presidency empire that could make Wall Street executives blush. Then there's foreign policy. Obama's infamous red line in Syria might be the greatest disappearing act in modern politics. One day it was a bold threat, the next it was gone, vanishing faster than campaign donations after Election Day. Libya? Kelly calls it the world's most expensive demolition project. Iraq? A mess he inherited, somehow managed to mismanage even more. And Russia? Obama dismissed them as a mere regional power right before they started hopping the globe like it was their personal chessboard. If foreign policy is chess, Kelly argues Obama wasn't a grandmaster, he was the guy losing to his 12-year-old nephew in 3 moves.
Knowing that
there are divorce rumors and, she's not showing up for him, whether it's at the Jimmy Carter funeral or the Trump inauguration or the basketball game he just went to in LA, when visiting their daughters and then dinner with the daughters, was not there. Here she is talking about it. If it were me, I would say something nice about him. I would say he's just so charming. It was meant to be. I knew he could heal the earth in the way he did. There was only one person who could do it, and it was my husband, Barack Obama, whatever. Then she gets on to talking a little bit about him personally, and this is how
Here's where Kelly really makes her commentary bite. Obama isn't just yesterday's news, he's today's ghostwriter. She paints him as the ever-present puppet master, quietly pulling strings while pretending he's retired. He claims to be out of politics, yet his fingerprints are everywhere, from party talking points to leadership choices. Kelly casts him as the Democratic Party's brand manager, hovering like a corporate consultant who refuses to leave after the merger. Biden's speeches? Half of them sound like they were copy-edited in Obama's basement. Party strategies? The signature is too obvious to miss. For Kelly, Obama isn't just a past president, he's the lingering shadow that won't disappear, no matter how many times you flip the light on. Her attacks land personal, grounded, and devastating. And that's where Vance picks up. To him, Obama isn't just an overhyped political celebrity, he's the polished elitist who treated middle America like a sociology experiment. He rode into power on a wave of hope, telling the struggling towns of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan that their voices finally mattered.
Tee it up with this soundbite from the vice president who gave an interview to the Gateway pundit and said as follows.
The only thing the far left really responds to is power. The thing that they're actually going to be responsive to is the recognition that there are consequences on the other side. If they get off scot-free, if they're never investigated, if they're never prosecuted when they violated the law, then they're just going to come back and do the exact same thing again. And there are a few different ways, of course. So it's the big tech companies that were censoring conservatives. They've got to know that's not going to be allowed, and there are going to be consequences for it. The banks, the president is really preoccupied with this, and rightfully so. And of course, you've got to pay the lawfare back in kind. You've got to say to the Comeys and the Brennans of the world, of course, you got to follow the law. You can only prosecute people when they actually broke the law, but we know that a lot of people broke the law.
By the end, those same towns look less like centers of industry and more like the backdrop of a post-apocalyptic film, minus the Hollywood paychecks. Vance drives home the point: Obama didn't just fail them, he dismissed them. He recalls that infamous sneer about people clinging to their faith and traditions. To Vance, that wasn't a gaffe, it was a confession. Obama didn't see working-class Americans as the backbone of the country, he saw them as relics in the way of the nation he wanted to redesign. And here's where Vance's sarcasm cuts deepest. Obama's America looked fine if you were sipping lattes in a Brooklyn loft or cashing in stock options in Silicon Valley. But if you were standing outside a shuttered factory in Dayton, the only thing transforming was your hometown into a ghost story. The divisions didn't die when he left office either, they grew on their own, Frankenstein monsters wandering long after their creator slipped into the background. That's where Kelly and Vance converge into one brutal narrative. Obama as both illusionist and elitist, the brand and the betrayer. Kelly exposes how the press sold the myth, Vance shows how that myth hollowed out real communities. In their telling, Obama wasn't just a president, he was the world's most successful marketing campaign for a product that never actually worked.